Well, my weary friend, it's Stone Historian here. I feel your bare feet shuffle across my dusty surface as you wake in a mud brick home in ancient Babylon, the faint smell of fresh dough tickling your nose. You'd probably trip over the clay jars in the dim light. Trust me, I've seen plenty stumble. Tonight, you're diving into a baker's life, grinding grain, firing ovens, and dodging market chaos to make bread in this sun-scorched city. So, before you settle in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy my ancient whispers. Tell me your city and time. Where you drifting off from? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum, and let's drift into tonight's tale together. You blink awake on a thin reed mat, the air cool but already hinting at the day's heat. It's just before dawn, and Babylon's stirring outside. Donkeys bray, neighbors shout, and I feel the ground rumble with early footsteps. Your home's simple: mud brick walls, a low roof, and a corner piled with clay jars for grain and oil. No fancy bed like your memory foam. Huh? You groan, stretching sore arms from yesterday's baking. Being a baker here's no easy gig. Your arms ache worse than after a gym session by noon. You shuffle to a small hearth, the room's only light coming from a tiny window. A clay lamp flickers, its sesame oil smell mixing with the dusty air. You grab a jug of water, splashing your face. Cold, gritty, not exactly your morning shower. Babylonians built these homes to stay cool, stacking mud bricks thick to block the sun. But here's a quirky bit. Some folks buried little clay charms under the floor for luck. Worked about as well as your rabbit's foot keychain. I'd wager. Folks still argue if those charms did anything or just made people feel better. Your stomach grumbles, but breakfast's gotta wait. You're a baker, and the city's hungry. You glance at a sack of barley in the corner. That's your gold. Babylonians love their bread, eating it with every meal, from flatbreads to fancy loaves for festivals. You'll need to grind that grain soon, but first, you step outside to check the courtyard. The sky's turning pink, and I feel the ground warm under your feet. Your oven's out here, a dome of clay that's your pride and pain. It's cracked from last week's baking, and you'll have to patch it later. Kinda like fixing a leaky tire, but hotter. You pause, sniffing the air. Neighbors are already firing their ovens, the smoky tang drifting over. You're not alone in this trade. Baking was big in Babylon, with families making their own bread or buying from folks like you. Some even sold to temples, where priests offered loaves to gods like Marduk. Ever try praying for a perfect bagel? Same vibe. I'm just a rock, but I'd bet those gods didn't care much for burnt crusts. Your wife's voice calls from inside. She's up, tending to your 2 kids, who'll help later. You're the main baker, but it's a family deal. Kids hauled water, wives kneaded dough, and you handle the oven's heat. Sounds like a team project, right? Except there's no air conditioning, and the sun's about to turn your courtyard into a sauna. You grab a worn reed basket, ready to head to the granary for more barley. The market's not far, but you'll need enough grain to keep up with orders. You mutter a quick prayer to Shamash, the sun god, for a good day, your version of crossing your fingers. The street outside's getting noisy, and I feel more feet tramping by. Merchants, farmers, even a stray dog. You dodge a cart piled with reeds, its driver yelling about late deliveries. Babylon's a busy place, with maybe 200,000 people in its heyday, all needing bread. That's a lot of mouths, and you're one of the folks keeping them fed. Folks still argue if bakers were middle class or just scraping by. Depends on how many loaves you sold, I guess. Your day's just starting, and the granary's waiting. Better get moving before the good stuff's gone. You sling the basket over your shoulder, the rough weave scratching your skin. The path to the granary's dusty, and I feel each step you take kicking up little clouds. You're thinking about the grain you need. Barley's cheap, but wheat's fancier for special orders. Maybe you'll snag some sesame seeds at the market later for a treat. Your mouth waters, but there's work to do first. I'm no baker, just a boulder, but I'd say you're in for a long day. The granary's close now, its mud walls looming ahead. Time to haul some sacks and get this bread show rolling. You trudge down the dusty path, your reed basket swinging on your shoulder, as the granary's mud walls loom closer under Babylon's pink dawn sky. The air's still cool, but I feel the ground warming beneath your bare feet, each step kicking up a puff of dirt that tickles my ancient surface. You're headed to gather barley sacks, the lifeblood of your baker's trade, and let me tell you, hauling grain's no picnic. You'd probably rather grab a coffee than wrestle these sacks. But this is your morning grind, and the city's waiting for your bread. The granary's a squat, thick-walled building, its entrance crowded with other bakers and farmers haggling over shares. You push through, dodging elbows, the smell of dry barley and sweat hitting you hard. It's like a busy grocery store on Black Friday, but with more dust and fewer carts. You nod to a familiar face, a wiry old man named Enlil, who's been at this longer than you. He's grumbling about prices. Grain's getting pricier since the last flood messed up the fields. Babylonians stored grain in these granaries to feed the city, sometimes for years, piling it high in clay-sealed rooms. Funny thing, though, some folks tossed in dried scorpions to scare off rats. Bet your fridge doesn't need that kind of pest control. Huh? You step inside, the air cooler but heavy with the earthy scent of barley. Stacks of rough sacks tower around you, each one heavier than a gym dumbbell. You grab a stick to poke at a sack, checking for mold. Nobody wants spoiled bread, and you've got a reputation to keep. Folks still argue if bakers tested grain by taste or smell. Either way, you're careful, squinting at the golden kernels. You pick 2 sacks, hefting them with a grunt. Your back's already complaining, and it's not even breakfast time. I'm just a rock, but I'd say your morning workout's covered. The granary keeper, a burly guy with a clay tablet, eyes you. He's tallying your haul, scratching marks with a reed stylus. Babylonians used a base 60 number system, which is why we've got 60 seconds in a minute today. Pretty cool, right? You hand over a few bronze bits, your payment for the grain. It's not cheap, but you'll make it back selling loaves later. You sling the sacks over your shoulders, their weight pressing hard, and start the trek back home. The path's busier now, with carts creaking and kids darting past. I feel their footsteps too, a steady hum through my stone core. Your mind's on the day ahead, grinding this barley, firing the oven, maybe sneaking a sesame loaf for yourself. You pass a temple, its ziggurat tower poking at the sky, and mutter a quick prayer to Ninkasi, the beer goddess who also watches over bakers. Beer and bread were cousins here, both made from barley, and some folks even crumbled bread into their brews. Tastes better than your energy drinks. I'd wager. You smile, thinking of your wife's face if you tried that at home. She's probably got the kids fetching water by now, ready to help with the dough. The sun's climbing, and the heat's starting to bite. Your sacks feel heavier, rubbing your shoulders raw, kinda like carrying a backpack full of books, but less fun. You dodge a stray goat nibbling at a weed, its owner yelling from a doorway. Babylon streets are alive, with maybe 200,000 people all hustling like you. Bakers were key to this city, feeding everyone from priests to laborers. Folks still argue if they were well off or just getting by. Depends on how many customers you could charm, I guess. You're almost home, the mud brick walls of your place coming into view. I feel your steps slow, your breath heavy from the load. You drop the sacks in the courtyard with a thud, dust swirling like a mini sandstorm. Your oven's waiting, that clay dome you'll fire up later. But first, you need to grind this grain into flour. Your arms are gonna hate you, my friend. I'm no baker, just a boulder, but I'd say you're tougher than you look. You wipe sweat from your brow, ready to head inside and start the next job. The day's just getting started, and there's bread to make. You glance at the sky, the sun now a bright disk. Your wife calls out, asking if you got enough grain. You nod, too tired to shout back. The courtyard's quiet, but I feel the faint vibrations of your kids running around inside, probably sneaking a fig or two. You're thinking about the flour mill waiting for you. 2 heavy stones that'll turn your barley into something useful. It's hard work, but it's what keeps Babylon fed. Time to get moving before the heat gets worse. You step into the shade of your mud brick home, the cool air a quick relief from Babylon's rising heat, and I feel your footsteps lighten on my gritty surface. Those barley sacks you hauled from the granary, remember that dusty trek, are slumped in the courtyard, waiting for you to turn them into flour. Grinding grain's your next job, and trust me, it's gonna make your arms feel like they've been wrestling a bull. Your gym's dumbbells got nothing on this. You head to the corner where your mill sits, 2 heavy stones stacked like a grumpy old couple, ready to crush that barley into something useful. The mill's simple but brutal. a flat-bottom stone, worn smooth from years of use, and a top stone you'll push by hand. You grab one of the sacks, dragging it over with a grunt. Feels like lugging a bag of dog food, doesn't it? You pour a handful of golden barley kernels onto the bottom stone, their faint nutty smell mixing with the courtyard's dust. Babylonians ground their grain daily, turning barley into flour for flatbreads that fed everyone from kids to kings. Here's a quirky bit. Some folks added date pits to the grain for extra crunch, like tossing nuts into your granola. Folks still argue if that was tasty or just a way to stretch the flour. Either way, you're not trying it. You grip the top stone's wooden handle, leaning in with all your weight. It's slow, grinding work, the stone scraping with a low, rhythmic crunch that echoes through my boulder core. Your shoulders burn, sweat dripping down your face as you push, round and round. No electric mixer here, my friend. I'm just a rock, but I'd pass on this chore. You pause to wipe your brow, glancing at your wife, who's kneading yesterday's dough nearby. She gives you a look like, "Hurry up, we've got mouths to feed." Your two kids are playing in the corner, tossing pebbles, probably pretending they're bakers like you. The flour starts piling up, a soft, pale mound spilling over the stone's edge. You scoop it into a clay bowl, careful not to waste a speck. Grain's too precious, especially after that flood jacked up prices. Babylonians used mills like yours for centuries, some so big they needed donkeys to turn them. Ever see those old coffee grinders at your grandma's? Same idea, but heavier. You shake out another handful of barley, the kernels clinking like loose change. The sun's climbing outside, sneaking through the window and warming the room. You're already thinking about the oven, that clay dome you'll fire up soon, but this grinding's gotta come first. Your daughter, maybe 6, runs over, curious, her bare feet pattering on my surface. "Can I help?" she asks, eyes wide. You chuckle, letting her push the stone. It barely budges, but she giggles, proud of her effort. Kids often help with baking, learning early how to feed the family. Some parents even carved tiny toy mills from wood for practice. Cute, right? You pat her head, sending her back to play. Folks still argue if kids worked full days or just pitched in. Depends on the family's coin, I guess. The grinding's got a rhythm now. Crunch, 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 like a slow heartbeat. Your arms are screaming, but you're halfway through the sack. The flour's fine enough for flatbreads, though you might save some coarser stuff for a heartier loaf. You hum a tune, something about the Euphrates River, to keep your mind off the ache. Music was big in Babylon. Harps and flutes filled markets, and bakers like you sometimes sang to pass the time. Ever hum while cooking dinner? Same deal, just sweatier. Your wife calls out, reminding you to grab sesame seeds later for a special batch. You nod, wiping dust from your hands. The courtyard's getting hotter, and I feel the ground baking under the sun. You scoop the last of the flour into the bowl, your fingers caked with grit. Feels like you've been kneading mud, doesn't it? I'm no baker, just a boulder, but I'd say you're earning your bread today. The dough's next, and that's a whole new mess. You set the bowl aside, stretching your back, and head to the water jug to rinse off. The day's moving fast, and there's no slowing down yet. You glance at the sack still waiting. More grinding tomorrow, but for now, you've got enough flour to start. Your son peeks out, asking when you'll eat. "Soon," you mutter, knowing lunch is hours away. The oven's looming in your mind, but first, you'll mix that dough and let it rise. The courtyard's buzzing with life, and I feel every step, every shuffle, as your family gets ready for another day of baking in Babylon. You stand in the courtyard, the sun now high enough to make you squint, and I feel your bare feet shift on my warm, dusty surface. That bowl of flour you ground, remember those aching arms? Sits ready, and now it's time to mix the dough, a messy job that'll have you cursing faster than a bad Wi-Fi signal. You grab a wide clay basin, its edges chipped from years of use, and set it on a low stool. This is where the magic happens, turning that flour into bread Babylon's hungry for. But trust me, it's more sweat than sorcery. You tip the flour into the basin, a soft cloud of dust puffing up and sticking to your hands. It's like dumping flour for pancakes, but way more elbow grease. You add a splash of water from a jug, warm, murky, nothing like your tap at home, and a pinch of salt from a small sack. Babylonians baked bread daily, mixing flour, water, and salt for simple flatbreads that were a staple for everyone, rich or poor. Here's a quirky bit. Some bakers tossed in crushed locusts for extra protein, like adding chia seeds to your smoothie. Folks still argue if that was a delicacy or just desperate times. Either way, you're sticking to plain dough. You dive in, kneading the mix with both hands, the dough squishing between your fingers. It's sticky, clinging to your palms like glue, and you mutter under your breath as it splatters on your tunic. Your wife, stirring a pot inside, shouts, "Don't waste it." She's got a point. Flour's not cheap, not with those floods hiking prices. You work harder, pushing and folding, the dough slowly turning smooth. It's tougher than your yoga class, my friend. I'm just a rock, but I'd crumble under that workout. The courtyard's heating up, and sweat beads on your forehead, dripping onto the basin's rim. Your son, about 8, peeks out, eyeing the dough like it's a toy. "Can I try?" he asks, bouncing on his toes. You sigh, letting him poke at it. His small hands make a mess, dough sticking everywhere, but he's grinning. Kids learned baking early in Babylon, often helping with small tasks like kneading or fetching water. Some families even made tiny clay ovens for kids to practice, kinda like your toy kitchens today. You nudge him aside, taking over before he turns your dough into a lump of goo. Folks still argue if kids were real help or just slowed things down. Depends on the kid, I guess. The dough's finally ready, soft and stretchy, but it needs to rise. You cover it with a damp cloth, your wife's old headscarf, repurposed, and set it in a shady corner. Babylonians let dough rise for hours, sometimes adding yeast from old beer to speed it up. Ever leave your bread dough out too long? Same idea, but stickier. You wipe your hands on your tunic, leaving white streaks, and glance at the oven outside. That clay dome's waiting, but it's not time to fire it yet. You're already thinking about the market, where you'll grab sesame seeds for a fancy batch. The courtyard's buzzing now, and I feel your kids' footsteps as they chase each other, dodging the flour basin. Your wife calls, asking if you'll head to the market soon. After the dough rises, you shout back, your voice hoarse from the dust. The air's thick with the smell of flour and clay, and I catch the faint hum of neighbors baking too. Ovens firing, voices arguing over prices. Babylon was a bread-loving city, with bakers like you churning out loaves for maybe 200,000 folks. Temples got the fanciest bread, offered to gods like Marduk, while you fed the regular crowd. You stretch, your back creaking like an old door. Kneading's no joke, is it? I'm no baker, just a boulder, but I'd say you're holding up okay. You grab the water jug, taking a quick swig, the warm liquid gritty on your tongue. The dough's rising, but you've got a bit before it's ready. You eye the oven again, knowing you'll need to build it up soon. Stacking clay to hold the heat's a chore. The market's on your mind, too. You'll need to barter for those sesame seeds and maybe some oil. The sun's climbing, and I feel the ground baking under your feet. Time to move, my friend. Your daughter runs by, giggling, and nearly knocks over the basin. You yell, half laughing, and she scampers off. The courtyard's alive, and I feel every shuffle, every thump, as your family keeps the baking rhythm going. You're thinking about the bread you'll bake, flatbreads for today, maybe a sesame loaf for tomorrow's festival. It's a tough life, but it's yours, and Babylon's counting on you. You're back in the courtyard, the sun now blazing down, turning your mud brick home into a hotbox, and I feel your feet shuffle on my sun-warmed surface. That dough you mixed, remember that sticky mess, is rising under its cloth, but you've got work to do before it's ready. You need to build up the oven, that clay dome in the corner, to get it hot enough for baking. It's a sweaty job, like trying to fix a car engine in a heat wave. And trust me, you'd rather be sipping iced tea. You grab a pile of dry clay chunks, ready to stack and patch, hoping to keep the heat in tight. The oven's a simple thing, just a rounded heap of clay about waist high, but it's finicky. Cracks snake across its surface from last week's baking, letting heat escape like a leaky bucket. You kneel, scooping soft clay from a bucket. Mushy, cool, like wet mud from a rain puddle. Babylonians built these ovens in courtyards, shaping clay over reed frames to trap heat for bread. Funny thing, some folks painted their ovens with red ochre for luck, like slapping a bumper sticker on your grill. Folks still argue if that did anything or just looked pretty. Either way, yours is plain, cracked, and needy. You slap wet clay onto the cracks, smoothing it with your hands, the grit sticking under your nails. It's messy, like patching a wall with frosting, and you're sweating buckets. Your air-conditioned kitchen's a dream right now, isn't it? I'm just a rock, but I'd dodge this heat. Your wife pokes her head out, yelling, "Don't let it crumble again." She's right. A bad oven means burnt bread, and nobody's buying that. You work faster, stacking dry clay chunks around the base to hold the shape. The pile's heavy, and I feel the ground shift as you drop each one with a thud. Your son wanders over, kicking a pebble. Guess he's bored of chasing his sister. "Why's it so lumpy?" he asks, pointing at the oven. You chuckle, tossing him a small clay bit to play with. Kids in Babylon often help with ovens, learning to stack or patch alongside parents. Some families even made mini ovens for kids to mimic the real thing, like those toy toolkits you see today. You shoo him off before he knocks your pile over. Folks still argue if kids were real helpers or just made more work. Your boy's leaning toward the second option. The oven's looking better, crack-sealed and base sturdy, but it's not ready yet. You need to let the clay dry a bit before firing, or it'll collapse like a bad cake. Babylonians baked in these domes for centuries, heating them with wood or dung to get that perfect crust. Ever try a wood-fired pizza? Same vibe, but smokier. You wipe your hands on your tunic, leaving muddy streaks, and glance at the dough basin. It's still rising, puffing up under the cloth. Good, you've got time. The market's calling, though. You need sesame seeds and maybe some oil for tonight's bread. The courtyard's a furnace now, and I feel the heat soaking into my boulder core. Your kids are inside, probably sneaking figs, and your wife's humming as she sweeps. The air smells of clay and dust, with a faint whiff of neighbors' ovens firing up. Babylon's bread machine never stops. Bakers like you fed maybe 200,000 people, from street vendors to temple priests offering loaves to gods like Ishtar. Ever pray your cookies turn out okay? Same deal, just with more chanting. You stretch, your back creaking like an old door. Stacking clay's no joke, is it? I'm no builder, just a boulder, but I'd say you're doing all right. You grab a water jug, taking a quick gulp, the warm liquid gritty on your tongue. The market's not far, just a short walk through Babylon's busy streets. You'll barter for those sesame seeds, maybe haggle for some dates if you're lucky. The dough's still rising, and the oven's drying, but you're already thinking about firing it up. The sun's relentless, and I feel your quick steps as you head inside to grab a basket for the market trip. Your wife calls out, asking if you'll be back soon. Before the dough's ready, you mutter, grabbing a worn reed basket. The courtyard's alive with the day's rhythm, and I feel every shuffle, every thump, as your family keeps the baking going. You're picturing the market, noisy, crowded, full of chances to score a deal. It's a tough day, but bread's what keeps Babylon going, and you're right in the middle of it. You grab your worn reed basket, the weave scratching your palm, and step out of your mud brick home into Babylon's scorching streets, where I feel your quick steps vibrate on my dusty surface. That dough's still rising back in the courtyard, remember that sticky heap. But you need sesame seeds to jazz up your bread, maybe some oil too. You're off to the market, a noisy, crowded mess that'll test your haggling skills. Trust me, it's like Black Friday at the mall, but with more goats. You sling the basket over your shoulder, ready to barter in the heart of the city. The market's a short walk, but the streets are packed, and I feel the ground hum with carts, feet, and shouting vendors. You dodge a kid chasing a stray dog, the air thick with dust and the smell of roasting meat. Babylon's agora is huge, with stalls selling everything from figs to clay pots, and it feeds the city's 200,000 hungry folks. Here's a quirky bit. Some traders use tiny clay tokens shaped like sheep to track deals, like ancient receipts. Folks still argue if those tokens were money or just IOUs. Either way, you're sticking to bronze bits today. You weave through the crowd, the market's din pounding your ears. Vendors yell, donkeys bray, and a flute player's tune floats over. It's louder than your car radio, isn't it? You spot a sesame seed stall, its sacks bulging with tiny brown grains. The seller, a wiry woman with a sharp grin, eyes you like a hawk. "Good seeds, fresh," she barks, holding up a handful. You nod, trying to play it cool, but haggling's a game here, and she's no rookie. Babylonians loved sesame for bread, sprinkling it for flavor or pressing it into oil. You've got a festival coming, and a sesame loaf will sell fast. You offer a few bronze bits, holding up 3 fingers, lowballing, hoping she bites. She laughs, shaking her head, and demands double. You argue, pointing at the seeds like they're not that great, but she's tough, tossing out prices like a used car salesman. Your wife's better at this, and you're wishing she was here. Her market trips are smoother than your Wi-Fi, I bet. I'm just a rock, but I'd say you're outmatched. You settle on a price, grudgingly handing over the bits, and she scoops seeds into your basket, smirking like she won. You move on, eyeing an oil stall nearby. The seller's busy, pouring golden sesame oil into clay jars. Its nutty smell making your stomach rumble. You're tempted to grab some, but your pouch is light. Those seeds cost more than planned. Babylon's markets were the city's pulse, where folks like you swapped goods, news, and gossip. Some traders even scribbled deals on clay tablets, like signing a contract at your bank. You decide to skip the oil for now, saving your bits for tomorrow's grain run. Ever haggle at a flea market? Same stakes, just dustier. Your daughter's voice cuts through the noise. She's run up, tugging your tunic. Can we get figs? She pleads, pointing at a fruit stall. You sigh, tossing her a bronze bit to buy a handful. Kids tagged along to markets, learning to barter early, though yours is more into snacks than deals. Folks still argue if kids helped or just ate the profits. Your girl's leaning toward the latter. You shoo her back to your wife, who's probably checking the dough by now. The market's chaos is wearing you down, and I feel your steps slow as you weave through stalls. The sun's brutal, baking the ground, and I'm soaking up the heat like a stone sauna. You're thinking about that oven back home. It's drying, but you'll need to fire it soon. The sesame seeds rattle in your basket. A small win in a tough morning. You glance at the sky, guessing you've got time before the dough's ready. The courtyard's waiting, and I feel your quick turn toward home, basket swinging. Bread's calling, my friend. Your wife's gonna ask about the seeds, and you're ready with a grin. Got him, no oil though. The market's noise fades as you leave the agora behind, and I catch the faint clatter of your kids playing back home. You're picturing those flatbreads, maybe a sesame loaf for the festival. It's a long day, but you're keeping Babylon fed, one haggle at a time. You're back in your courtyard, the midday sun hammering down, and I feel your weary step scuff across my baked surface as you drop your basket of sesame seeds by the dough basin. That market trip, remember dodging those pushy traders, left you sweaty and low on bronze bits, but you've got what you need to make your bread shine. Now it's time to rest, catch your breath under a scrap of shade, and swap some gossip with neighbors before the oven's ready. Trust me, this heat's brutal. You'd kill for a cold soda right now, wouldn't you? You drag a rickety stool to the courtyard's shady corner, ready to take a break. The dough's still rising under its cloth, puffing up like a pillow, and the oven's clay patches are drying nicely. Nice job on that, by the way. You plop onto the stool, the wood creaking under you, and wipe sweat from your brow with a dusty sleeve. Babylonians took midday breaks to escape the worst heat, sprawling under trees or awnings to save energy for the afternoon grind. Quirky thing. Some folks napped right on their roofs, claiming the breeze was cooler up there, like sleeping on your balcony, but dustier. Folks still argue if that was smart or just asking for a sunburn. Either way, you're sticking to the shade. You lean back, the courtyard quiet except for your kids giggling inside, probably sneaking dates from the pantry. Your wife's voice drifts out, scolding them, and you grin. She's got this under control. The air smells of clay and the faint smoky tang of neighbors' ovens firing up. I feel a soft breeze ripple across my boulder surface, carrying snatches of chatter from the street. Your neighbor, Zari, a potter with a loud laugh, wanders over, his tunic streaked with clay. Hot enough for you, he calls, leaning against a wall. You nod, tossing him a water jug. Sharing's the neighborly thing here, like passing a soda at a barbecue. Zari's full of gossip, spilling tales from the market. A trader got caught shorting grain, and the priests are planning a big festival for Marduk. You listen, sipping gritty water, the jug's clay cool in your hands. Babylon's festivals were huge, with bread and beer flowing like water. Bakers like you made extra loaves for the crowds. Ever rushed to cook for a party? Same pressure, just with more chanting. Zari mentions a new tax on barley, and you groan. Your wallet's feeling that already. Folks still argue if taxes hit bakers harder than traders. Either way, it's one more headache. You stretch your legs, the stool wobbling. Feels like sitting on a bad camping chair, doesn't it? I'm just a rock, but I'd say you're earning this break. Zari keeps talking, joking about a customer who tried paying with fish. You laugh, picturing the guy's face when he got turned down. Humor kept folks sane in Babylon. with market banter and tall tales swapped like baseball cards. Your mind drifts to the dough. It's probably ready soon, and that oven's waiting to be fired. The sesame seeds in your basket catch your eye. Those will make a killer loaf for the festival. A kid runs by, kicking a pebble that pings off my surface. Your son, at it again. Go help your mother, you yell, half smiling. Kids were everywhere in Babylon, learning trades or causing trouble, just like yours. Some parents carved little clay toys to keep them busy, like giving them a cheap action figure. You shake your head, turning back to Zari, who's now griping about his kiln breaking. The courtyard's a sauna, and I feel the heat soaking into my granite core, but the shade's keeping you alive for now. You take another swig of water, the gritty taste familiar. Your bottled water's a luxury, huh? The break's nice, but work's calling. You're thinking about that oven, how you'll light it without choking on smoke. The dough's almost ready, and you'll shape those flatbreads soon. I feel your stool creak as you stand, stretching your arms. Zari waves, heading home, and you glance at the sky. Sun's still high, but the day's moving. Time to check that dough, my friend. Your wife's voice calls, asking if you're done lazing. You chuckle, grabbing the basket of seeds. The courtyard's alive with the day's rhythm, and I feel every step, every shuffle, as your family keeps the baking going. You're picturing those loaves, golden and warm, feeding Babylon one bite at a time. It's a tough life, but you're in the thick of it. You're standing by the dough basin in your courtyard, the midday sun still blazing, and I feel your dusty feet shuffle on my warm surface as you peel back the cloth to check that rising dough. Remember that sticky mess you kneaded? It's puffed up nicely, ready to shape. But first, you've got to fire up the oven, that clay dome you patched earlier. Lighting it's a smoky, sweaty job, like trying to start a campfire in a windstorm. And trust me, you'd rather be flipping burgers on a grill. You grab a bundle of dry reeds and some wood scraps, ready to get that heat roaring. The oven's looking solid, its fresh clay patches hardened under the sun, but it's cold as my boulder heart right now. You crouch by its low opening, stacking reeds inside like kindling for a bonfire. Babylonians used these clay ovens to bake bread, heating them with wood, reeds, or even dried dung to hit the perfect temperature. Quirky thing, some bakers swore by tossing in aromatic herbs to make the bread smell fancier, like adding rosemary to your focaccia. Folks still argue if that was for flavor or just to impress customers. Either way, you're keeping it simple today. You strike a flint, sparks catching the reeds, and a thin wisp of smoke curls up. You blow gently, coaxing the flame, but it sputters. Come on, your lighter's easier than this, right? I'm just a rock, but I'd say you're fighting a losing battle. The fire finally catches, crackling as you add wood scraps, but the smoke's thick, stinging your eyes and choking your throat. You cough, waving it away, and your wife yells from inside, "Don't burn the place down." She's got a point. A bad fire could wreck your oven, and you're not baking on a broken heap. The flames grow, licking the oven's walls, and I feel the ground warm as the heat spreads. You're sweating buckets, your tunic sticking to your back. Feels like standing over a barbecue, doesn't it? You toss in more wood, careful not to smother the fire. Babylonians baked bread at high temps, around 400 degrees, to get that crispy crust. Ever try a pizza oven? Same idea, but smokier. You squint into the oven, checking the glow. Too cool yet, but it's getting there. You've got to time this right, or your flatbreads will be tough as leather. Your daughter skips out, holding a clay toy shaped like a bird. "Is it hot yet?" she asks, peering at the oven. You nod, shooing her back. She's too close, and you don't need a kid singeing her hair. Kids in Babylon loved watching ovens fire up, sometimes mimicking it with their toy ovens, like playing with a toy kitchen set. Folks still argue if they learned the trade young or just got in the way. Your girl's definitely the second one today. You give her a playful nudge, and she giggles, running inside. The smoke's thinning now, and the oven's walls are glowing red inside. You're almost ready, but the heat's intense, and I feel it radiating across my surface. You grab a long stick, poking the fire to spread the coals. Your oven mitts would be handy, huh? Babylon's bakers were pros at this, knowing just when to start baking. Some even marked their loaves with seals to show whose bread was whose, like branding your cookies. You're thinking about that dough, ready to shape those flatbreads soon. The sesame seeds from the market catch your eye. They'll make a killer loaf for the festival. Your wife steps out, checking the dough. "It's good," she says, giving you a nod. You're a team, and she's got the kneading down while you handle the fire. Kinda like splitting chores at home, right? The courtyard's alive with the day's rhythm, and I feel every step, every thump, as your family keeps things moving. The air's thick with smoke and the faint smell of clay, and I catch neighbors' ovens roaring too. Babylon's bread machines in full swing. Bakers like you fed maybe 200,000 folks, from laborers to priests offering loaves to gods like Shamash. You wipe your face, smearing ash, and take a quick swig from the water jug. Gritty, warm, but it does the job. I'm no baker, just a boulder, but I'd say you're nailing this fire. The oven's hot enough soon, and you'll start baking those flatbreads. You glance at the dough basin, ready to shape it next. The sun's still high, and I feel the heat soaking into my core, but you're pushing through. Time to get those loaves going, my friend. Your son peeks out, asking if you'll bake sesame bread. Maybe, you grin, waving him off. The courtyard's buzzing, and I feel the kids' footsteps, the fire's crackle, all part of Babylon's daily grind. You're picturing those golden flatbreads, feeding your city one bite at a time. You're crouched in your Babylonian courtyard, the sun blazing overhead, and I feel your sweaty feet shift on my scorching surface as you pull the risen dough from its basin. That puffy mound you kneaded earlier, remember that sticky fight? The oven's glowing red-hot now, its fire crackling like a campfire, and it's time to shape your flatbreads before the heat eats you alive. Molding dough's a race against time, like trying to flip pancakes before they burn. And trust me, you'd rather be chilling with a popsicle. You set the basin on a low stool, ready to get those loaves ready for baking. The dough's soft and stretchy, sticking to your fingers as you pinch off a chunk. Feels like playing with warm Play-Doh, doesn't it? You roll it into a ball, then flatten it with your palms, slapping it into a rough circle. Babylonians made flatbreads daily, shaping them by hand to feed families or sell at markets. Quirky thing. Some bakers carved little marks into their dough, like initials, to claim their loaves in shared ovens. Kinda like labeling your lunch in the office fridge. Folks still argue if those marks were for pride or just practical. Either way, you're keeping yours plain today. You work fast, the dough piling up in wobbly stacks beside you. The oven's heat is fierce, washing over me like a desert wind, and you're sweating buckets. Your air-conditioned kitchen's a fantasy now, huh? I'm just a boulder, but I'd wilt in this heat. Your wife steps out, checking your progress, and tosses you a damp cloth to wipe your hands. Hurry up, she says, eyeing the dough. She's got the sesame mix ready for a festival loaf, and you nod, slapping another flatbread into shape. The courtyard's a furnace, and I feel the ground baking under your quick movements. Your son runs up, his bare feet kicking dust, and points at the dough. Can I make one? He asks, eyes bright. You sigh, handing him a small chunk. He squishes it into a lumpy oval, grinning like it's a masterpiece. Kids in Babylon often help shape bread, learning the trade young, though their help was more enthusiasm than skill. Some parents gave kids dough scraps to play with, like letting them mess with cookie dough. Folks still argue if kids were real bakers or just underfoot. Your boy's definitely the second kind. You pat his head, taking his lumpy bread to bake anyway. The stack's growing, maybe a dozen flatbreads ready, but you're not done. You grab some sesame seeds from that market hall, sprinkling them over a few rounds for extra flavor. Those'll fetch a better price. Babylonians loved sesame bread, especially for festivals, where it was offered to gods like Marduk or eaten with beer. Ever add sprinkles to cupcakes? Same vibe, just crunchier. You press the seeds in, careful not to tear the dough, and set those aside for the first batch. The oven's ready, its glow pulsing like a dragon's breath, and you're itching to start baking. Your wife's voice cuts through, asking if the oven's hot enough. Almost, you mutter, glancing at the fire. She's kneading a second batch inside, keeping the kids busy fetching water. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? The courtyard's alive, and I feel every step, every thump, as your family hustles. The air's thick with the smell of dough and smoke, and I catch neighbors' ovens roaring too. Babylon's bakers are in full swing, feeding maybe 200,000 folks. Temple's got fancy loaves, but your flatbreads feed the regular crowd, from laborers to street vendors. You stretch your arms, your shoulders tight from shaping. Feels like a workout, doesn't it? I'm no baker, just a boulder, but I'd say you're killing it. You grab a water jug, gulping down a gritty sip. Your bottled water's a luxury, huh? The flatbreads are ready to bake, and you're eyeing the oven, knowing the real test's coming. You'll slide those loaves in soon, praying they don't burn. The sesame ones are for the festival, and you're picturing the extra bronze bits they'll bring. The sun's high, and I feel the heat soaking into my core, but you're pushing through. Your daughter skips out, holding a clay toy bird, and asks if the bread's done. Not yet, you grin, shooing her back. The courtyard's buzzing, and I feel the kids' footsteps, the fires crackle, all part of Babylon's daily grind. You're thinking about those golden flatbreads, feeding your city one bite at a time. It's a tough day, but you're in the thick of it. You're in your Babylonian courtyard, the sun climbing toward its peak, and I feel your dusty feet shuffle on my hot surface as you carry a stack of freshly shaped flatbreads. Remember that doughy wrestle? Toward the glowing oven. The fire's crackling inside that clay dome you patched, and now it's time to bake, a sweaty job that'll test your nerve. Trust me, it's like grilling steaks without a timer. You slide the first flatbread into the oven's mouth, the heat blasting your face, and I feel the ground warm as the baking begins. You use a long wooden paddle, worn smooth from years of use, to nudge the dough onto the oven's hot floor. It sizzles, the air filling with a toasty bread smell that makes your stomach growl. Better than your microwave pizza, huh? You work fast, sliding in more flatbreads, each one puffing up as the heat hits. Babylonians baked bread this way for centuries, using clay ovens to churn out flatbreads for daily meals. Quirky thing, some bakers whispered prayers to Nin Kasi, the bread and beer goddess, for perfect loaves, like wishing your cookies don't burn. Folks still argue if those prayers helped or just calmed jittery nerves. Either way, you're muttering under your breath, hoping these don't char. The oven's a beast, its heat washing over me like a desert storm, and you're sweating through your tunic. Feels like standing over a bonfire, doesn't it? I'm just a boulder, but I'd back away from that blaze. Your wife steps out, fanning herself, and checks the stack of sesame-seeded flatbreads you set aside for the festival. Don't burn those, she warns, pointing at the oven. She's right. A scorched batch means no sales, and you need those bronze bits. You nod, wiping ash from your face, and slide another loaf in, careful to keep the fire steady. Your son runs up, wide-eyed, watching the bread puff up like magic. How's it so hot? He asks, inching too close. You pull him back, handing him a stick to poke the fire. Keeps him busy without singeing his hair. Kids in Babylon loved oven time, sometimes playing with toy ovens to mimic their parents, like messing with an easy-bake oven. Folks still argue if they learned much or just caused chaos. Your boy's leaning toward chaos today. You grin, nudging him to fetch more wood, and he scampers off, proud to help. The first flatbreads are done, golden and crisp, and you pull them out with the paddle, stacking them on a clean cloth. The sesame ones go in next, their nutty smell mixing with the smoky air. Those'll sell fast at the market. Babylonians ate bread with every meal, dipping it in oil or stew, and festival loaves like yours were prized. Ever smell fresh bread from a bakery? Same vibe, just dustier. You check the oven's heat, poking the coals to keep it steady, and slide in another batch. Timing's everything, and you're watching like a hawk. Your wife's inside, needing more dough for tomorrow. She's got your back, like a sous chef in a busy kitchen. The courtyard's a sauna, and I feel the heat pulsing through my granite core, but you're in the zone. The air's thick with bread and smoke, and I catch neighbors' ovens sizzling too. Babylon's bakers are feeding maybe 200,000 folks, from street vendors to temple priests offering loaves to gods like Ishtar. Your flatbreads are for the regular crowd, but those sesame ones might catch a priest's eye. You stretch, your arms aching from the paddle. Baking's no joke, is it? I'm no chef, just a boulder, but I'd say you're nailing this. You grab a water jug, gulping a gritty sip. Your bottled water's a dream, huh? The stack of flatbreads is growing, and you're picturing the market sales. You've got more to bake, but the festival's looming, and those sesame loaves are your ticket to extra coin. The sun's high, and I feel your quick steps as you check the fire again. Your daughter peeks out, clutching her clay bird toy, and asks if she can eat a bread. Not yet, you say, tossing her a smile. The courtyard's buzzing, and I feel the kids' footsteps, the fire's crackle, all part of Babylon's daily grind. You're thinking about those golden loaves, feeding your city one bite at a time. It's a tough day, but you're keeping the ovens hot and the bread coming. You're back in your Babylonian courtyard, the sun dipping just a bit but still cooking the air, and I feel your quick step scuff across my dusty surface as you gather your fresh-baked flatbreads. Remember that toasty stack from the oven? into a wide reed basket. That noon meal with your family filled your belly, but now it's time to hit the market and sell those loaves, a noisy, crowded hustle that'll make you wish for a quiet coffee shop. Trust me, you'd rather be scrolling your phone than shouting prices. You sling the basket over your shoulder, heavy with plain and sesame-seeded breads, and head out to your stall in the agora. The market's a short trek through Babylon's packed streets, and I feel the ground hum with carts, feet, and yelling vendors. Feels like rush hour, doesn't it? You dodge a guy hauling figs, the air thick with dust and the smell of grilled fish. The agora's a madhouse, stalls crammed with everything from olives to clay jars, feeding the city's 200,000 folks. Here's a quirky bit. Some sellers tied bells to their stalls to grab attention, like those annoying shop buzzers. Folks still argue if that worked or just drove customers nuts. Either way, you rely on your loud voice. You reach your stall, a rickety setup of wood and reeds, and plop the basket down, the breads wobbling in stacks. You shout, "Fresh bread! Best in Babylon!" trying to out-yell the fruit guy next door. Your voice cracks. Your karaoke nights are smoother, huh? I'm just a boulder, but I'd say you're giving it a good shot. Customers wander by, eyeing your loaves, and a wiry old woman stops, sniffing the sesame ones. "How much?" she asks, squinting. You name a price, a few bronze bits, hoping she doesn't haggle too hard. Babylonians loved fresh bread, buying it daily to dip in oil or stew, and your sesame loaves are festival ready. She offers half your price, waving a bony finger like she's bargaining for gold. You argue, pointing at the seeds like they're pure treasure, but she's stubborn, tossing out low-ball offers. Haggling's a sport here, and you're sweating it out. Your online shopping's a breeze compared to this, right? I'm just a rock, but I'd dodge this showdown. You settle on a price, a bit less than you wanted, and she grabs 2 loaves, muttering about your fancy seeds. You pocket the bits, grinning. She's a regular, always a tough deal. More customers trickle in, drawn by the bread's warm smell, and you're shouting prices, stacking loaves, and making change with bronze scraps. Your son runs up, tugging your tunic. "Can I help?" he asks, eyeing the coins. You let him hand a loaf to a customer, his small hand shaky but proud. Kids learn to sell young in Babylon, practicing with toy stalls at home, like playing shop with Monopoly money. Folks still argue if kids boosted sales or just slowed things. Your boy's a mix of both today. You nudge him to count the bits, keeping an eye on him. The market's chaos peaks, and I feel the ground shake with footsteps, vendors, buyers, even a stray donkey. The air's thick with shouts and the nutty scent of your sesame breads. You sell a few more loaves, mostly plain ones, but the sesame ones are holding for festival buyers who'll pay extra. Babylon's markets with a city's heart, where bakers like you traded for maybe 200,000 mouths, from laborers to priests offering bread to gods like Ishtar. Your loaves keep the regular folks fed, one sale at a time. You stretch, your throat hoarse from yelling. Feels like you've run a marathon, doesn't it? I'm no seller, just a boulder, but I'd say you're holding your own. You grab a water jug, sipping the gritty liquid. Your bottled water's a luxury, huh? The stack's shrinking, and you're counting bits, hoping for enough to buy more grain. The festival's tomorrow, and those sesame loaves are your big play. The sun's lower, and I feel the heat easing slightly, but the market's still wild. Your daughter skips over, holding a fig from lunch, and asks if you sold a lot. Getting there, you grin, shooing her back to your wife, who's probably prepping more dough. The courtyard's waiting, and you'll head home soon to check the oven. The market's alive, and I feel every step, every shout, as Babylon keeps humming. You're picturing those bronze bits, maybe a treat for the kids. It's a tough hustle, but you're feeding the city, one loaf at a time. You're trudging back to your Babylonian courtyard, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows, and I feel your tired steps drag across my dusty surface as you carry a lighter basket. Those flatbreads you sold at the market, remember that noisy haggle? Brought in some bronze bits, but your sesame loaves are still waiting for festival buyers. Now it's time to pack up your market stall and chase a few twilight deals before night falls. It's a dusty, rushed job, like cleaning up after a garage sale, and trust me, you'd rather be kicking back with a cold drink. You set the basket down by your clay oven, ready to tidy up and make those last sales. The courtyard's quieter now, the air cooling as the sun dips, and I feel a soft breeze ripple over my boulder surface. Your stall's goods, mostly empty baskets and a few leftover loaves, are scattered, and you start stacking them under a reed awning. Babylonians wrapped up their market days at dusk, hauling goods home or selling scraps cheap to clear out. Quirky thing. Some traders tossed unsold bread to temple beggars for good luck, like leaving tips at your coffee shop. Folks still argue if that was charity or just dodging waste. Either way, you're hoping to sell every loaf tonight. You fold a worn cloth, tucking it into a basket, and sweep the stall's dirt floor with a reed broom. Feels like tidying your patio, doesn't it? I'm just a rock, but I'd skip this chore. Your wife's inside, checking the kids, who are probably playing with their clay toys. The oven's still warm, its glow fading, and you glance at it, knowing you'll patch it again soon. A neighbor's voice drifts over, shouting about a late customer, and you perk up. Twilight's prime time for bargain hunters. You grab a few plain flatbreads, heading back to the agora's edge, where stragglers linger. The market's quieter, but I feel the ground hum with latecomers. Vendors packing, buyers sniffing out deals. You spot a tired-looking man, maybe a laborer, eyeing your loaves. "Cheap bread," you call, holding up a flatbread, your throat's hoarse, like after a long Zoom call, huh? I'm just a boulder, but I'd say you're pushing through. He offers a single bronze bit for 2 loaves, a low ball, but you're ready to clear out. You haggle, waving the bread like it's gold, and settle for a bit and a half. He grabs the loaves, muttering thanks, and you pocket the coin, grinning. Every sale counts. Your daughter runs up, her bare feet pattering, clutching a clay bird toy. "Did you sell all the bread?" she asks, bouncing. You shake your head, showing her the sesame loaves still waiting for festival day. They're your big earners. Kids in Babylon often hung around stalls, learning to count coins or charm buyers, like helping at a lemonade stand. Folks still argue if they boosted sales or just begged for snacks. Your girl's eyeing those loaves, so you shoo her home. Babylon's markets were the city's lifeline, feeding maybe 200,000 folks, from laborers like your customer to priests offering bread to gods like Marduk. The agora's emptying, and I feel fewer footsteps, the air now thick with dust and the faint smell of cooling bread. You stack the last baskets, tying them with rope. Your car trunk's easier to pack, right? I'm no trader, just a boulder, but I'd say you're wrapping up strong. You grab a water jug, sipping the gritty liquid. Your bottled water's a dream, huh? The bronze bits jingle in your pouch. Not a bad haul, but the festival's tomorrow, and those sesame loaves need to shine. You're thinking about prepping special breads for the big day, maybe a fancy shape to catch eyes. Your wife calls from the courtyard, asking if you're done. "Almost," you shout, hauling the baskets home. The oven's cooling, but you'll fire it again for festival prep. The courtyard's alive, and I feel your kids' footsteps, your wife's humming, all part of Babylon's rhythm. You're picturing tomorrow's market. Crowds, noise, and those sesame loaves selling fast. It's a tough hustle, feeding a city one loaf at a time. You glance at the sky, the sun nearly gone, painting the horizon pink. A few stars peek out, and I feel the ground cool under your feet. You're ready to head home, but one last buyer, a woman with a clay jar, waves you down. "1 loaf?" she asks, offering a bit. You nod, making the quick sale, and I feel your steps lighten. The market's fading, but you're still in the game, my friend. You trudge back as the sky bleeds into violet, your sandals scuffing my dusty skin. Crunch, crunch, like grinding barley. The market's clamor fades behind you, replaced by the hiss of embers dying in your clay oven. The flatbread sold well, but your sesame loaves are saved for tomorrow's festival, and now you need to prep special breads to wow the crowds. It's a fiddly job, like decorating cupcakes for a party, and trust me, you'd rather be binge-watching your favorite show. You grab a fresh bowl of dough, ready to craft festival loaves under the fading light. The courtyard's calm, the air finally easing from the day's heat, and I catch a faint breeze stirring dust around my boulder edges. Your wife's inside, putting the kids to work fetching water, while you kneel by the dough basin, the clay cool against your knees. Babylonians went all out for festivals, baking fancy breads shaped like stars or fish to honor gods like Marduk. Quirky thing. Some bakers hid tiny clay charms inside loaves for luck, like slipping a coin into a birthday cake. Folks still argue if those charms were fun or just choke folks. Either way, you're keeping your bread charm free tonight. You pinch off a chunk of dough, softer than that sticky batch you needed, nice work back then, and start shaping it into a crescent for the festival. It's tricky, the dough stretching thin. Your cookie cutters would be handy, wouldn't they? I'm just a rock, but I'd fumble this too. You sprinkle sesame seeds from your market haul, pressing them in so they stick, the nutty smell making your mouth water. Your fingers are steady, but the dough's fussy, tearing if you push too hard. You mutter to yourself, wishing for a cooler night. Babylon's evenings are a relief, but the work never stops. Your daughter tiptoes out, her clay bird toy tucked under her arm, and watches you shape the bread. "Why's it a moon?" she asks, pointing at the crescent. You explain it's for the festival, to please the moon god Sin, like making a themed cake for a holiday. Kids in Babylon loved festivals, sneaking bites of special breads or dancing in the streets. Some parents let them shape tiny loaves to offer at temples, like crafting gingerbread houses. Folks still argue if kids' breads were cute or just lumpy. Your girl's eyeing the dough, so you hand her a small piece to shape. She giggles, making a wonky star, and you grin, setting it aside to bake. The crescent loaves pile up, maybe a dozen, each one dusted with sesame for that festival flair. You're saving them for the market, where they'll fetch double the price of plain flatbreads. Babylon's festivals were huge, with maybe 200,000 folks eating, drinking, and praying. Your breads are part of the celebration, feeding crowds or offered to gods like Ishtar. Ever stress over party snacks? Same deal, just with more clay ovens. You start another batch, shaping a fish this time, your hands moving faster as the light fades. The oven's cooling, but you'll fire it up again for these. Your wife steps out, checking your work. "Nice shapes," she says, nodding at the crescents. She's got more dough ready inside. Your team's tight, like prepping a big dinner together. The courtyard's alive, and I feel your kids' soft footsteps, their chatter mixing with the evening's quiet. The air smells of dough and sesame, with a faint smoky tang from neighbors' ovens. Babylon's winding down, but the festival's got everyone buzzing. Your breads will shine tomorrow, earning those extra bronze bits. You stretch, your back aching from crouching. Shaping's no picnic, is it? I'm no baker, just a boulder, but I'd say you're crafting art. You grab a water jug, sipping the gritty liquid. Your bottled water's a luxury, huh? The festival's on your mind, and you're picturing the market packed with buyers. You've got more shaping to do, but the stars are peeking out, and I feel the ground cool under your feet. Time to keep at it, my friend. Your son calls from inside, asking if he can help tomorrow. "If you don't sleep in," you tease, hearing him groan. The courtyard's settling, and I feel the day's rhythm slow, but you're still working, shaping those festival loaves. You're thinking about the market, the festival, and feeding Babylon one fancy bread at a time. It's a long night, but you're in the thick of it. You're in your Babylonian courtyard, the night sky now a deep velvet speckled with stars, and I feel your quiet steps shift across my cool surface as you sit by a flickering fire, the glow dancing on your clay oven nearby. Those festival loaves you shaped, remember those crescent moons? Are ready for tomorrow's market, but now you're winding down, swapping stories with neighbors under the starlight. It's a cozy moment, like chilling around a campfire with friends. And trust me, you'd rather be here than scrolling through emails. You lean back on a reed mat, the fire's crackle soothing, ready to hear some ancient tales. The courtyard's hushed, the air crisp after the day's heat, and I catch the faint hum of Babylon settling into night. Your wife's inside, tucking the kids in. They're probably dreaming of festival sweets by now. The fire's small, fed by dry reeds, and its warmth brushes my boulder surface, mixing with the smoky smell of your cooling oven. Your neighbor Zari, the potter, sits across from you, his loud laugh echoing as he shares a tale about a market baker who accidentally sold bread to a priest's dog. You chuckle, shaking your head. Gossip's the night's entertainment, like catching up over beers. Babylonians loved nighttime stories, passing down myths about gods like Enlil or heroes like Gilgamesh under starry skies. Quirky thing. Some folks believed stars were God's eyes watching them, like ancient night vision cams. Folks still argue if that was faith or just spooky campfire talk. Either way, you're just enjoying the stories. Zari's tale shifts to a legend about Nin Kasi, the bread and beer goddess, who taught mortals to bake. "She'd love your sesame loaves," he jokes, poking the fire. You grin, thinking of those festival breads waiting for market day, your big shot at extra bronze bits. The stars twinkle above, and I feel a soft breeze carrying the scent of clay and bread. You toss a reed into the flames, watching it flare. Feels like roasting marshmallows, doesn't it? I'm just a rock, but I'd say this beats a long day's work. Your mind drifts, picturing tomorrow's festival. But Zari's story pulls you back, his voice low and rhythmic, perfect for a sleepy night. Your daughter's voice pipes up from the doorway. She's snuck out, clutching her clay bird toy. "Tell a story about the moon," she begs, rubbing her eyes. You sigh, pulling her onto your lap, and spin a quick tale about Sin, the moon god, sailing his silver boat across the sky. Kids in Babylon soaked up these myths, learning about gods and heroes from firelit chats, like bedtime stories with extra magic. Some parents carve star shapes into clay for kids to hold during tales, like giving them a glow-in-the-dark toy. Folks still argue if these stories taught morals or just kept kids quiet. Your girl's yawning, so it's working tonight. You kiss her forehead, sending her back to bed. The fire's dying, and I feel the ground cool under your mat, the courtyard settling into silence. Zari's tale wraps up, and he yawns, heading home with a wave. You're left by the embers, staring at the stars. Their light faint but steady. Babylon's festival's often tied to the moon, with bakers like you making crescent loaves to honor Sin. Your breads are part of that tomorrow, feeding maybe 200,000 folks or offered to gods like Ishtar. Ever tell a story to wind down? Same vibe, just starrier. You're thinking about the market, those sesame loaves, and the bronze bits they'll bring. You stretch, your back stiff from the day's grind. Storytime's nice, but sleep's calling, isn't it? I'm no bard, just a boulder, but I'd say you're savoring this quiet. You grab a water jug, sipping the gritty liquid. Your bottled water's a luxury, huh? The oven's cold now, but you'll fire it up again for festival baking. The courtyard's dark, and I feel your soft steps as you stand, kicking out the fire's last embers. Tomorrow's big, and you're picturing the festival's crowds. Your wife's voice calls softly, checking if you're coming in. "Soon," you mutter, glancing at the stars one last time. The courtyard's still, and I feel the night's calm, just your footsteps and the distant hum of Babylon. You're thinking about those tales, the festival, and feeding your city one loaf at a time. It's a long day done, and sleep's not far off, my friend. You're in your Babylonian courtyard, the night sky now a deep blanket of stars, and I feel your quiet steps sink into my cool surface as you spread a thin reed mat near the embers of last night's fire. Remember those starlit tales. The festival loaves are ready for tomorrow's market, and your family's asleep inside, but you're settling down to drift off, your body heavy from a day of baking. It's a peaceful moment, like curling up after a long shift, and trust me, you'd take this mat over a couch any day. Well, maybe not. You lie down, the mat crinkling under you, ready to slip into dreams. The courtyard silent, the air soft and cool, carrying the faint smell of sesame and clay from your oven, now cold and dark. I feel the ground steady beneath you, my boulder surface soaking in the night's calm. Your wife's soft snores drift from inside, mingled with your kids' murmurs, probably dreaming of festival treats. Babylonians slept on mats like yours, spread on floors or rooftops to catch the breeze, saving fancy beds for the rich. Quirky thing, some folks tucked lavender sprigs under their mats to keep bugs away, like spraying your room with bug zapper. Folks still argue if that worked or just smelled nice. Either way, your mat's plain, but it's home. You stretch out, your back aching from grinding grain and firing ovens. Feels like you ran a marathon, doesn't it? I'm just a rock, but I'd say you've earned this rest. The stars twinkle above, and you trace their patterns, maybe spotting the same ones priests used to guide festivals. Babylon's night was quiet, its 200,000 folks winding down, bakers like you resting to feed the city again tomorrow. Your sesame loaves are your pride, ready to sell big at the festival, maybe even to a priest for Ishtar's temple. Ever crash after a big day? Dreaming of tomorrow? Same vibe, just starrier. Your eyes droop, the mat's reeds poking a bit, but you're too tired to care. I feel your breath slow, a gentle rhythm against my surface, and the courtyard fades into a hush. You're thinking of those market crowds, the clink of bronze bits, and your kids' faces when you bring home figs. The day's grind, hauling grain, shaping dough, firing ovens, melts away, and I catch the faint hum of a distant flute, maybe a neighbor celebrating early. Babylon's festivals were wild, with bread and beer flowing, and your loaves are part of that joy. You're feeding a city, one bite at a time. Your daughter's clay bird toy lies nearby, dropped when she fell asleep. Makes you smile, doesn't it? I'm no dreamer, just a boulder, but I'd say you're drifting close. You pull a thin cloth over you, the air cool enough to need it. Your cozy blanket's a luxury, huh? The stars seem closer now, their light soft, and I feel the world quiet around you. Babylonians believed dreams came from gods, guiding or teasing mortals. Folks still argue if dreams meant anything or were just late-night nonsense. Tonight, yours are probably full of bread and markets. The courtyard still, and I feel only your slow breaths, the night wrapping you like a gentle hug. The festival's tomorrow, but for now, you're done. Your work carved into every loaf waiting for dawn. I'm here, my friend, as you slip into dreams, the stars keeping watch. The world softens, the air grows lighter, and your thoughts fade into a warm, quiet haze. You're floating now, carried by the night's calm, your body sinking deeper into the mat. The city sleeps, and so do you, dreaming of golden breads and a new day's hustle. I'll stay right here, steady as always, while you rest under Babylon's endless sky. Your breath slows, my friend, each soft exhale blending with the night's gentle hush, and I feel the courtyard cradle you on that crinkly mat. The stars above Babylon twinkle, their light a quiet whisper, like the embers of your fire fading into gray. The sesame loaves you shaped, the market's noise, the oven's heat, they're distant now, melting into a warm, dreamy fog. You're safe here, under the vast sky. Your family snores a soft lullaby from the mud brick walls. The city's asleep, its 200,000 souls resting, and you're part of that calm, your day's work done. I'm here, my weary friend, my boulder heart steady as you drift deeper, the cool ground holding you close. The festival's tomorrow, but tonight, there's only peace, the air soft against your skin. Let the stars guide you, their glow carrying you to dreams where bread bakes golden and markets hum softly. Your worries slip away, like dust settling in the breeze, and your body sinks, heavy and warm, into the mat's embrace. The night's yours, a quiet gift, and I'll stay right here, watching over you as you float into a world of gentle shadows. Sleep now, my friend, let Babylon's rhythm fade, and drift into that sweet, endless calm where nothing but rest awaits. I'm Stone Historian, your old boulder pal, whispering you into dreams, steady and still under the starlight. Sweet dreams.